One of the biggest things that I see people struggling with in Marvel Rivals is the team-based aspect. Let's talk about it. YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark. I'm here on a beautiful Monday morning. Well, actually, it's afternoon at this point. And I hope everybody's had a great weekend. We actually, where I'm at, we've been having a heat advisory for the last couple of days. I don't know if everybody else is having that issue, but we've been having it for like the last 4 days. I believe we got it for a couple more days. And it's actually pretty bad. It's getting up to like 110 outside where I'm at. It's really bad. So I hope everybody's staying inside. Got some air conditioning, a lot of cold water, staying hydrated, Gatorade, all that good stuff. But like I was saying about this video, something that I've been noticing lately, especially like even in like my own Discord, jumping in and out of people's streams and stuff like that. And if you haven't joined the Discord, I recommend you doing that. If you're having a hard time finding it, the link is next to my profile picture. When you go to my main channel page, you'll see where it says more info next to the profile picture. You click that, you'll see a link to the Discord. I'd recommend joining. We have LFGs, we have all different level skill players, we have men and women in there. Just anything that it is that you're looking for, even if you're just looking for a chill community of people just to laugh and joke with, share memes, whatever it is. Anything you're looking for, we pretty much have it in there. We even have some other sections for other popular games that a lot of people like to play and stuff in their spare time. I know a lot of people are getting into that new game, Ready or Not. So like I said, there's pretty much everything in there you're looking for. We have a zero toxicity policy or any of that kind of nonsense. Anybody tries to do any of that kind of stuff, we immediately show them where the door is at, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's actually just more of an extremely chill community of very close-knit friends and stuff like that. That play together every day. We also do stages and stuff like that. A lot of people present me with topics a lot of times for things they're interested in, and they end up being videos and stuff, and it's just a lot easier to have direct access to be able to ask me questions or talk to me about things, whatever the case may be. But now let's go ahead and get into it. So like I was saying, lately I've been jumping in and out of people's streams and stuff, and just watching different people play together, and there's something really interesting that I noticed. A lot of times you'll see players that are individually on their own amazing players. Like I'm talking about people that are absolutely goated at this game. Me myself, I talk about it all the time. I'm a slightly above average player. I'm not goated at this game. This is not Call of Duty for me, which is what this channel was started off of. Something where I did take a lot of pride in how skilled I was at the game, because I've been playing it for over 2 decades. So there was really nothing that I didn't know about the game inside and out. This game has been a learning experience for me, because unlike Call of Duty, this game is a team-based game. It completely relies off of your ability to work with a team and be able to play different roles and be able to understand the purpose of those roles and to not step outside of the bounds of those roles. And the thing is too, is that you can be one of the best players in the world at your role, your particular role. But if let's say you're a DPS player and you don't have any heals, we already know how that's going to turn out against a team that does have heals. You could be one of the best tanks in the world, but if you have DPS and support players that aren't doing anything, you already know how that's going to go. And even if you're a support player, you can heal your teammates all day long. If they're not able to hit water, if they fall out of a boat, it does you no good. So, and the thing is too that I want to mention is that the last couple of days I've been going back through like the Batman animated series. Not the last couple of days, that's like last week I'd started just feeling nostalgic, so I went back through the Batman animated series. And after I finished that, I was like, you know what, let's just keep going, right? Got HBO Max, they got everything on there, and I started rewatching the Superman show, and then I made my way up to the Justice League. Now there's 2 different Justice Leagues they had. They had just one that was called the Justice League, which just kind of revolved around the initial kind of like founders of the Justice League starting it, like Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Hawkgirl, etc. Right? I think even like the Green Martian or whatever his name is. And then they have the Justice League Unlimited. Now the Justice League Unlimited, obviously it follows afterwards, but that's after they've already established the Justice League and they start bringing in a bunch of other superheroes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stories that focus on various different members and stuff. And both of them were interesting, but the initial Justice League show, I know a lot of people are wondering, like, what does this have to do with the thing? Trust me, it has a point, and I'm getting to that point in just a moment. There was an episode that I saw that was around the time when I started jumping into different streams and stuff like that and seeing different players and stuff playing together and variations and stuff. And one of the episodes that I found to be really, really interesting was season 2, episode 17 of the first Justice League show. And it's called Secret Society Part 1. Now, the thing is that in this episode, what's happening is that Grodd, which if anyone doesn't know who Grodd is, he's like this, he's like a gorilla, but he's extremely intelligent, and he was one of the initial people that first started kind of like the villains equivalent to the Justice League, right? And it's called the Secret Society. And basically he started realizing like, hey, instead of us kind of like working on our own and then we keep getting jumped by the Justice League, why don't we create our own version of the Justice League? Obviously just a villainous version of that. And that way, whenever, one of us gets approached by a superhero or whatever the case is after we're robbing a bank or doing whatever villains are doing that day, we could just, call in some of our members and then, make it a fair fight at least. Right. And in this episode, the way that it starts out is that the Justice League is like basically training. They had made like this, it was like a Wild West kind of like little area they had made out in the desert or something like that. And, they're all trying to like train to work together. Like what happens if we're in this situation or what happens if we're in this situation. And the Green Lantern is the one that's kind of like giving all the call outs and stuff, because even though Batman was like kind of part of the Justice League, he was like more like an honorary member at the time. He was still doing his own thing and just kind of coming in when he needed to be. So he hadn't kind of like been established as that, kind of like captain of the team kind of role yet. And I thought it was really interesting because this is the Justice League, right? These are people that are extremely, they all have these really cool abilities, and on their own, they're really used to like working on their own, and on their own, they kind of know how to do particular things. But there are times where, they get outnumbered and they have to call in for help, whatever the case is. But long story short, in this episode, they're all kind of like doing different things. Like, for example, one of like, there's these little like robots that they're fighting against. And one of the robots was like booby trapped. And the team tried to tell Hawkgirl not to fly in and, just swing her little whatever it is that she has at one of the robots, and it ends up exploding on her. And Green Lantern tells her, he goes, hey, you have two teammates standing next to you that both have like X-ray vision, like Superman, I think it was, and the Green Martian. And she's just kind of like, oh yeah, you're right. And there's another part where Superman, he goes to do something. I think he goes to use like his laser vision, and he tells everybody to get down, but nobody really listens to him. And then he just kind of does that thing where he spins around to try to take out all the different robots or whatever with his laser vision. And a few of the members get mad. They go, hey man, you almost hit us with that. And he goes, I told you to get down, but you didn't listen. And then Superman actually gets kind of upset, and he's like, oh, well, I'm the strongest person here, and a lot of you all are a lot weaker than me, and there's a lot of these situations that I could just take care of myself, but I have to hold back because I don't want to have to worry about hurting any of you, et cetera, et cetera. And everybody gets mad, and they go, oh, well, what do you mean you're the best person here? And, like I said, this all made me think about teamwork in Marvel Rivals and how a lot of situations work out. There's a lot of times where I'll be watching a team and I see that there's one person that obviously has a lot more ego than everybody else. And instead of giving out a lot of call outs a lot of times and saying like, hey, I got this person one shot, they're kind of in their own head, and they end up, the person ends up getting saved by someone on their team or whatever. They pop an ult, whatever, healing ult. Now the person's back to full health. The team is just getting demolished. And this is something that I've seen in various different things in life. I remember when I was a kid, I'm not really into sports, but I remember when I was like, I think I was like a teenager or something. I can't remember the exact team, but I remember they had made kind of like this super team in basketball. And everybody was talking about, they're like, they put like some of the best players in the league all on like this one team, and the team was just stacked, right, with people that all had like their own shoes and just all this different stuff. And everybody thought this team was going to do great, but the team actually didn't end up doing that well. And it was the way my dad explained it to me, because my dad was the one that was really into sports. The way he explained it to me is that basically they all had too much pride, they all had too much ego. And it caused them to not want to work together the way that they should, because that's what happens a lot of times in life, is when we feel like we're supposed to be the star of the show, we don't really rely on our teammates the way that we should. And this is something that I see a lot in this community, where people don't understand and appreciate different roles and different members of their team, and they don't do things like give proper call outs and stuff. I think about it a lot, and I think about like, if I was going into ranked, what kind of teammates would I want? I would rather have teammates that are just okay, but they're all fully aware of what their role is. They respect each other's role and appreciate each other's role, and they know how to give call outs. And there's a balance to everything. Obviously, you don't want people just constantly calling out every little thing all the time to the point to where comms become cluttered. But at the same time, you also want people to not just sit there and be quiet, and then you're like, well, what's happening? Why aren't you alive? And it's like, oh, well, the whole time I was being dove by Black Panther and nobody peeled for me. And you're thinking to yourself, well, why didn't you say that? Could have turned around and just helped you. Or, just different things, right? There's a lot of times where I'll be in a match and my supports are all dead, and I have no idea because no one pinged anything, no one said anything, whatever. And the whole time they were like a mile away from me fighting for their life, and they waited until after they got deleted to want to say something. And like I said, I think about that a lot, about what kind of teammates do I want? And a lot of people might think, well, I want the best teammates in the world. I want people that are not teammates, but the best players in the world, right? Or whatever the case may be. I want a team full of Necroses and Bogers and Flats or whoever people consider to be. I'm not saying they're the best. It's just that people a lot of times bring them up with different things. But, I want a team of people like that. And I feel differently about it. Like I said, I'd rather have a team of people that had far more like humility than they do like their ego and their pride and stuff going into a match. And like I said, have zero problem communicating, admitting what their weaknesses are, and understanding what their strengths are and playing to those. Myself, for example, I go into a match. I'm going to play whatever role is needed. I'm a flex player. I have more time as a support player simply because when you're flexing, that's kind of the role that no one else wants to play, because I feel like that's just the role that people look at and they go, well, that's the role that's the most boring. I'm just refilling health bars. A lot of people don't understand how important your supports are. When you have a team of really good supports, what do you hear people saying? Nothing is dying. Well, why is nothing dying? Well, because you have support players that actually know how to heal. We've all been in a match and we've had supports that had no idea how to heal. They were scared. They were hiding around corners. They were popping their ults at the wrong time when no one was alive, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody knows how annoying it is to have an extremely good Luna on the team, an extremely good Cloak and Dagger, an extremely good Rocket or Loki. We all know how irritating that is. And every role can be like that. If you have a DPS player that knows exactly how to flank, it knows how to take out the supports on the other team, or at least just keep them so distracted that they just can't do anything the whole time. Tanks that are extremely good at creating space, getting up in your personal space and making you fearful, making the rest of the team scatter and just go, oh, what is this? What's going on here? Right? Like, everybody has a role and everybody has to understand that role and understand that there's other people on their team that are just as important as they are. And for me, I don't really have an issue with that. Coming from a game like Call of Duty, it's really funny because in Call of Duty, you have all different size of roles, not roles, but like squads that you can play with. You can do solos, you can do duos, trios, or you can do squads, which is obviously 4 people. But what's different about it is that you aren't reliant on your teammates for your survival a lot of times. For example, you don't need a healer because in Call of Duty, the way that it works is that you have your regular health and then you have plates. You can find the plates on the ground and you can put your plates in whenever you feel like. You take one little chunk of damage, you can put some plates in. You lose the plates first, and then you lose your normal health. Now, your normal health, when you lose it, it regenerates as long as you don't take any damage for, I think it's like 3 or 4 seconds. Maybe it's a little bit longer, maybe like 5 seconds at the most. But there's these things called stim shots, which are kind of like like a little adrenaline pin or whatever, a little epinephrine pin or whatever you want to call it. And you can just kind of, hit yourself with that, and, you're good to go. Right, it actually even gives you a little speed boost too, kind of like how when you come in contact with one of Jeff's bubbles. The point I'm making is that you don't need supports. You can get into a 1v1, and that's the way things are supposed to be. It's really funny because there's kind of like this unspoken thing once you get past a certain skill level, like once you start getting up into the lobbies where you're like a 1 or higher KD player, people tend to have this, like, it's almost like a gentleman's agreement where if you see someone and they're fighting and it's a 1v1, you don't get in between that. And when you're playing with like lower skill players, they tend to want to work together. They'll stick together. They won't separate. And that's kind of something that people will like pick on you in higher skill lobbies. Like, let's say you're sticking really close with your teammates and you're actually working together. People will be like, oh man, you need your teammates to help you out, man. You're scared of the 1v1. You know you're going to lose that 1v1, so you don't want to do it. When you do wager matches in Call of Duty, that's actually what you'll do. You'll join a squad and you might have 4 people in the squad, or like, let's say it's just a 2-person wager. They'll put you on a team together as a duo, and basically they're called kill races. Whoever gets the most eliminations by the end of the match will win that wager. Like, Call of Duty encourages you to be as good as you possibly can on your own merit. Now, once you start, let's say you're playing ranked and you get up to like the Crimson level, which would be the equivalent of GM in this game, right? At that point, that's when you do start playing with a team. But even then, people will try to separate in the beginning of the match and get picks on different teams and stuff to kind of get those initial base points that you would want. And then as the match starts to come to a close, people will start working together and sticking closer and closer together because the circle is smaller. Obviously like in Battle Royale I'm talking about. So like I said, it's really interesting how I came from a game like that and people did not work together. That was just something that people didn't do. And like I said, it was because it was encouraged. If you were to tell your teammate, like, hey, I see this one guy around the corner, let's go push him together, people would kind of look at you like, bro, you want me to go help you with this one guy? Why don't you just go take him on? You're not good enough to be able to win a 1v1, especially when you have like the element of surprise or whatever the case is. And that's something that you see a lot of content creators doing. They will join into squads and they purposely stay away from their team and try to take out as many other teams as they can alone. This game is the complete opposite. This game, you are supposed to work with your team. If you are separate in this game, you're not going to go separate from your team and just go to the enemy and start trying to do everything by yourself. You're going to get absolutely demolished unless you're just playing against people that have no idea what they're doing and just started playing this game yesterday. But if you're playing with against even remotely competent people in the game, you have to work as a team. You have to understand that, okay, well, if I'm support, I have to stay in the back line until it's time for me to ult. And then I can push up. If you're playing like Cloak and Dagger or something, you can push up into the enemy team, and then you cloak back out, and you fade back, and you get behind. Tanks are supposed to be in the front. If I'm up in front of my tank fighting as a support, people are going to go, what the hell are you doing, man? Right? If your DPS is in Narnia and the rest of the team is off doing this thing, people are going to be like, bro, what are you doing? You're out of position. That's a call out that people make. They say this person is out of position. Focus them. And a lot of people don't understand that about this game. They're coming in from a lot of other games like Call of Duty and other games that I can't think of any off the top of my head, but other games that kind of encourage people to have this like egotistical mindset of I'm going to do it all by myself. Just like in the Justice League episode. All these heroes have been so used to fighting alone for so long that when it came time, to fight as a team, they had no idea what to do. These are superheroes. Not saying that they're real, obviously, but the point is that you can learn from anything in life. Even a cartoon sometimes can teach you an important lesson, like the fact that no matter how good you are on your own, when it comes to a team-based thing, you need to work as a team and understand and respect your teammates and appreciate them. The moment that you start arguing and doing all this other stuff, you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage. The enemy team isn't arguing. The time that you're spending arguing and talking about who's doing this and, oh, look at the board, I have this many eliminations. Oh, well, look at the healing that I have. Look at all this stuff. What good is that doing you? You know what the enemy team's not doing? What you're doing, arguing, complaining, comparing stats, trying to find a scapegoat, somebody to blame. At the end of the day, you load into these matches to win, correct? And let me know, are you loading in to not win? Because that's not what I'm doing. I don't know anybody who plays this game who loads in to not win the game. I don't know anybody that does that. Never met somebody that says, man, I can't wait to load into Marvel Rivals today, bro, so I can just take L after L after L. It doesn't happen. So, those are just my thoughts on it. It's something that I think that, and I make videos like this because I know that not everybody's going to hear it and they're going to say, oh, I heard Father Dark say I got to work as a team. Let me just completely change the way that I operate now. No, but as long as I get out of the 1,000 comments that will eventually come from this video over time, as long as 2 or 3 people say, hey, you know what? I never really thought about it like that, but from hearing you use these different examples and explaining it the way that you did, I think that I'm going to start trying to work more as a team and be a little bit more considerate of teammates and all this different stuff, right? As long as that happens, then my goal has been met, right? It's been completed. That's all that matters. That's the benefit of having a platform. I see certain things and I explain these things to people and then they try to make the appropriate changes. Even if you just kind of spend a little bit of time thinking about it, just marinating on it a little bit, then I've done what I came here to do. It's just as simple as that. And Just like the expression, wisdom often comes from the mouth of babes. This is something I noticed being a father, right? You think when you have kids, you're like, there's no way my kid's going to tell me something that I didn't already know or explain something to me that I didn't know. I created them. How are they going to explain stuff to me that I didn't know? I've lost count of how many times my kids have told me something that I didn't know. I've said this before in videos. I have one son. He is obsessed with trains and trucks and just cars and engines and all types of stuff. I'm a tech guy. I can sit here and take a computer and take it apart blindfolded and put it back together blindfolded, like the way Marines do with their rifles and stuff, right? That's me. Same thing with phones, TVs, whatever. There's a single electronic thing that goes wrong in this house. I do not have to take it anywhere. I can just sit here, pull up my miniature toolkit or my big toolkit, whatever the job requires, and I'm able to do whatever it is that needs to be done. I can buy whatever replacement part, solder it back on, whatever needs to be done, right? When it comes to the car, though, outside of changing a tire or changing my oil, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's just not my thing, right? So I have to go to a mechanic. But my son, he can come to me and he can explain stuff to me that I never knew I did. My son will be like, "Oh, well, Dad, if you actually just take this off and the flux capacitor and blah blah." And I'm like, huh. He's not even 10 yet, but that's his obsession. That's his thing. Does he know how to take a computer apart and put it back together? No, he knows how to play on one, but he doesn't know how to take it apart and put it back together. And that's the thing, is we can teach each other these things. He can teach me about what his fascination is about cars and engines and all these different things. And I can teach him about electronics. We trade this information. And it's the same thing with the game. I've had people in my comment sections tell me things that I have overlooked. I remember there was one guy, he goes, "Hey man, you can block Wanda's ult with Inviz's little shield that she has." Had no idea. Would have never even have thought of that. That's just not the way my mind works. I'm thinking once you hear her ulting, get out of there, right? And it's the same thing like in our Discord a lot of times. Sometimes you have people that might be a silver player and they just happen to know this little piece of information that someone who's in Celestial doesn't know, and vice versa. That was the whole point of making it to begin with, so that people could get together and kind of like almost like how think tanks work, where you have all these different people that know these different things and they get together and they share this information. And it was also made for people to build rapport with each other and actually build friendships and stuff over time, versus when you have these like more like giant servers that have like 30, 40,000 people in them and no one really knows anybody in there. They all just kind of come in and go, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody for Plat 2 or something like that." And if it doesn't work out, rinse and repeat until they get whatever they need and they move on. And nobody, like I said, really deals with each other outside of that. I was looking for something a little more close knit when I created that group, But like I said, I do think that it's interesting though, how many people load into this game every day and they have so much pride and so much ego, and it's just, oh, I gotta do it all by myself, and if I'm not the one playing DPS and blah blah blah, and then you end up going negative and you end up getting carried by a tank or a support or something. Or you all just lose because you spend the whole entire game bickering and arguing over whose role was more important or who added more value to the team, and everybody chasing the fabled MVP, right? And it's like, does that tell the whole entire story? Could you have gotten that MVP if you weren't being healed the whole entire time? If you didn't have a tank who was sitting here blocking 50,000 damage for you the whole entire time, just eating that so you could do whatever it is that you were doing? And vice versa for any role. So I'm going to wrap it up, though, because we're already at the 23-minute mark. That's just something that I kind of want to talk about today, my little rant about the power of friendship and teamwork and how important it is in this game. Now, if you go into Call of Duty, completely different story. I would actually advise you to not depend on your teammates and learn how to do things yourself. But the game design, completely different. And this is coming from someone who enjoys being a lone wolf type of guy. But I enjoy playing this game more than I enjoy being a lone wolf. So I can't be a lone wolf. I have to understand that I have teammates and that I have to help those teammates in whatever role it is that I'm playing. If I'm playing a tank, I got to peel when Black Panther and Spider-Man are in the back line. If my supports are having a hard time dealing with it. You know why? Because I need them to heal me. And they need me to help them so that they can heal me. Sometimes the DPS are struggling. Sometimes, they're right there. Maybe it's two equal DPS and they're going at it. And they just need that extra little hammer throw or the little mind beam or whatever it is from Emma, whatever the case is, to finish somebody off. It's a team. As a team, you work together, not against each other. That is completely defeatist of why you're in a team to begin with, if you're working against the team. right? Far more easy to go with the current than fight against it, correct? So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. But let me know in the comments what you all think. Is that something you deal with a lot? Do you have a good team that you play with, etc.? And another thing too that I want to just add in for the people that have made it this far in the video, and if you have made it this far in the video, let me know, because I am curious how many of you actually make it to the end of these videos. I can tell sometimes by comments that you leave based off of certain things that I've said toward the end of the video. But this was actually something I meant to say earlier in the video, but I forgot about that, so I'm saying it now. Point is that the gameplay that you've been watching right now has actually been from my console. Now, I know I did a video before where I had did a console run and ranked and made it, I had surpassed my PC rank within 3 days with a 90% win rate on console. And a lot of people made a lot of different excuses as to why I was able to do that. I mean, people were just making up some pretty serious excuses as to why that was something that I was able to do. So I decided that, because one of the main things people said, which is why I was able to surpass that rank, so my PC rank so quickly on console, they said, oh, well, you waited until the very end of the season, so of course it was going to be easier. Which I've never experienced that on PC. PC is hard for me, whether it's the beginning, middle, or end of the season. But you know what? I said, hey, just out of curiosity, let me try it again closer to the beginning of the season. I know it's not the first day or anything, but still, we haven't even made it halfway through the season yet. So the next video that I do, I should already be back to where I was last time on console, or even higher by the time I make this next video, which will probably be, and I like to upload every 2 days or so. So that is something to just look out for on my next video if you're curious about that, about my other console run that I did. And when I say other console run, I just mean the second one, really. But yeah, like I said, let me know in the comments if you're excited for that, if you're curious to know what the outcome was from that. Like I said, also too, let me know what your experience is in regards to teams and things that you think are important, or things that you feel make it harder for people to play as a team in this game. Kind of for me, I feel like the MVP thing is cool, but I think that too many people try to kind of stat pad and only play certain characters that maybe aren't as beneficial for the team, kind of like a Jeff or something like that, because the game does reward Jeffs and Ultrons and stuff more for MVP, versus other characters in the game have to do a lot more to get the same type of stats or whatever the case is. But like I said, just let me know in the comments. I am curious to know what you all think. But that's all I have for this video, though, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I do appreciate you all for watching. I'm Father Dark, and I'll catch you on the next one.